and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Ashley you once again, and I'm here to review all of the week's action that took place in the semi-finals of both the Champions League and the Europa League. 8 teams remaining across both competitions were looking to plot their route through to the finals in either Istanbul or Gdansk and potentially take that last step towards some European glory. So I'll review all of the action that has taken place this past week and seeing which teams will most likely make it through to the final. So hope you enjoy watching this video as always, and hope you enjoy watching what I've got to say about the football that's been taking place in this past week. So first up, on Tuesday night, it was the Champions League semi-final between Real Madrid and Chelsea at the Estadio di Alfredo Di Stefano in Madrid. Real Madrid's training ground, that is, of course, given that their current Bernabeu stadium is currently undergoing reconstruction. So that's why all of their Champions League home games have been moved to their training ground. Doesn't feel exactly the same because obviously the stadium is not that big in terms of capacity, but still a great game nonetheless, even though Chelsea were much the better team, particularly in that first half when they could have been out of sight really in that first half an hour. They did score early on through Kai Havertz and should really have been much further ahead before Real Madrid got themselves into the game. Timo Werner had a brilliant chance from close range which was saved by Thibaut Courtois, and when you're playing against a side that are so defensively resolute, who can create a chance out of nothing, if you don't take those chances then eventually they'll come back to bite you, and that's exactly what happened to Chelsea. And Real Madrid equalised out of nothing past the half-hour mark through their leading goal scorer Karim Benzema with a brilliant overhead. Wasn't an overhead kick, it was like a scissor kick finish into the roof of the net. No chance for the Chelsea keeper Edouard Mendy, and from looking like they were being overrun, Real Madrid suddenly were back in the tie. But even though they did gain a bit more control in that second half, and Chelsea still had some chances to re-establish their lead, but they couldn't take them, and they now go head into the return leg at Stamford Bridge next Wednesday all square. But even though Chelsea have got the slight advantage with the away goal, so a goalless draw next week at Stamford Bridge will be enough to take them through to the final. But somehow that's not really going to happen. I expect another thrilling tie between these two sides, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top and then faces the winner of the other semi-final, which I'll move on to now, between Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City. Manchester City have taken a giant step towards reaching their first ever Champions League final after coming from behind to win in the French capital. They too, much like Real Madrid, they were very much overrun in that first half and outplayed, and they could have been more than just the one goal down at the break. PSG were absolutely superb in that first half, dominated Manchester City and took the lead through their main goal scorer in these types of tournaments, Marquinhos, who scored in their quarter-final win against Bayern Munich and has now scored in the semi-final as well. And he headed in from a corner from Neymar to put PSG ahead, and you felt at that point that PSG could have scored 2 or another 1 or 2, and you just get that feeling that they will be left to rue at those missed opportunities, because City came back into it much better performance in that second half, really took the sting out of PSG's intensity. PSG looked tired, if anything, after that first half performance where they pressed City quite high with a lot of intensity, as Mauricio Pochettino wants to see his side play, and that played into Manchester City's hands because they were much better in that second half, played with a better intensity, more like, they weren't being as overrun as they were in the first half, and they were controlling the tempo much better, and they eventually equalised through Kevin De Bruyne with a what looked like a cross that he put in from the left, and no one touched it on, and it looped into the bottom corner past Keylor Navas, and City had that crucial away goal. But they weren't going to settle for one. They added a second a few minutes later through Riyad Mahrez, with a free kick that went through the wall. The wall's a bit fragmented, let's be honest. Questions will be asked as to who was responsible for letting the ball through the wall and not blocking it, and it kind of unsighted Navas as he tried to dive to save it, and suddenly, from looking in danger of being overrun and pretty much out of the tie in that first half, City were 2-1 up, and PSG lost that discipline in the second half that has plagued them on so many occasions in the Champions League, until last season, where they've lost their discipline, they've lost their, fear factor, should you say, and they went down to 10 men, and with a few minutes to go for Idrissa Gueye after he was sent off for stamping on İlkay Gundogan, and City could have capitalised and make it 3-1, which would have pretty much ended this semi-final as a tie, you would think. But 2-1, there's still a bit of hope for Paris Saint-Germain, but you just get the feeling that City at this moment in time are the team to beat in this season's Champions League. They're definitely the favourites, but judging on that second half performance in Paris, it's going to be very difficult for Maurizio Pochettino and his side to turn it around in the second leg in Manchester next week. So they've got a lot of work to do if they want to realise that dream of winning the Champions League, just like City are as well, and both teams have spent a lot of money over the years to try and become the best team in Europe, and on this evidence it looks like City are going to take that step through to the final. It'll be interesting second leg, given the fact that PSG have looked much better on the road in this season's competition, one at Bayern Munich and one at Barcelona as well. So you still feel that they've got something to give in this tie, but City's home record in this competition has been nothing short of brilliant. I don't think they've lost there in a few years now at home, so they're definitely the favourites for me to get through this tie, but who knows. We'll look ahead to the second legs next week, and obviously we'll find out which teams will be through to the final in Istanbul from the Champions League. And then moving on to the Europa League semi-finals on Thursday night. First up, it was Manchester United against Roma at Old Trafford, first leg. At Old Trafford, United were firm favourites given their league position over their opponents, and they had the better form. And they showed that pretty much all the way throughout the game, even though the first half Roma led 2-1 at the break. Roma were much more composed, much more resilient, much more compact in that first half, and they really limited United to quite a few chances and gave themselves the lead at the break after falling behind early on for a brilliant finish from Bruno Fernandes, who just dinked the ball over the keeper after a brilliant exchange between him and Edinson Cavani. And then you just felt that moment that United were going to take control and really steamroll the Roma, but the Italians came back into the game and were awarded a penalty which looked contentious after a handball, I think it was by Paul Pogba, and Borja Mayoral equalised for the spot I think it was Lorenzo Pellegrini who equalised from the spot for Roma for a potentially what could still be a potentially crucial away goal, and Roma added a second near the end of the half for Edin Dzeko, finishing off a brilliant move. I think it was Pellegrini who went in behind the United defence and he squared for Dzeko for a tap-in, and 2-1 at the break. It looked like United had those semi-final demons once again under Solskjaer. He's lost in 4 previous semi-finals since taking charge of the club, and it looked like for all the world that it could happen again, but in the second half United really turned on the style, equalised pretty much quickly after the restart through Cavani with a brilliant finish first time into the top corner, and then they went ahead for I think it was Fernandes again. I think it was Cavani again who put them ahead in the second half to make it 3-2. Before Manchester United were awarded a penalty, Cavani Manchester United were awarded a penalty after a foul. I think it was handball by Chris Smalling, and then Fernandes dispatched it from the penalty spot, and it was 4-2. And that you just felt at that point that Roma needed to limit the damage in terms of not trying to leave themselves with a mountain to climb, but unfortunately they shipped a further 2 goals through I think it was Pogba who added a fifth, and Paul Pogba who added a fifth, and Mason Greenwood added a sixth as well, and near the end with a finish that the keeper really should have saved. Not the best night for the keeper. I think he made a mistake for the 3rd goal as well when he fumbled a shot, and I think Cavani was there to dispatch it from close range, and not the greatest night for the keeper. And Roma, well, 6-2. Still, it's not really impossible that they could turn this around, but just given how that defence imploded in that second half, and the fact that they need to score a lot of goals without conceding in the second leg, it looks very much likely that United will be through to the final. We've seen comebacks happen before in that type part of the world in Rome, but you just get the feeling that United at this moment in time are on song. They're looking in such great form. In contrast, Roma look like they just want this season to end. Not going to get in the top 4 through the Champions League, and they've got a real mountain to climb to turn this tie around and make it through to the final. So it looks like United will be through to the Europa League final in Gdansk. But the other semi-final tie that took place on Thursday night, Villarreal against Arsenal, bit more tight this one, 2-1, but it didn't look to be that way in that first half when Arsenal completely overrun by the Villarreal side managed by their former manager Unai Emery. Could have been out of sight at the break, but instead only had led by 2 goals for I think it was Manuel Trigueros with the first when he latched onto a loose ball in the box and fired it across the keeper and in. And then I think it was Raul Albio who got the second from after a corner was headed on, and he dispatched it into the roof of the net. And judging by how the game was going at that point, you felt that Arsenal were going to be out of this tie pretty much by the end of this first leg, but they kept to their task, managed to restrict it to 2. It could have been 3 when Leno made a great save from the Villarreal's main goal-scoring man, Gerard Moreno, but that was a crucial save. And then Arsenal went down to 10 men from Dani Ceballos off the stamp on, I think it was Chukwueze, and just at that point it looked like it was going to be a mountain to climb, but Arsenal with their 10 men got a penalty like after a trip in the area on I think it was Saka who was tripped in the area, and Nicolas Pepe dispatched from the penalty spot for what could be a crucial away goal, and Arsenal suddenly back in the tie, and they had a further good news for them, given that Villarreal went down to 10 men themselves from Etienne Capoue, a former who was on Tottenham's books in the Premier League a few years ago, and 10 against 10, it looked like Arsenal could, go on and score a second goal to make it 2-2 and put themselves in the driving seat heading into the second leg at the Emirates, but it wasn't to be. Villarreal held on for a 2-1 victory to give themselves a narrow advantage heading into the second leg at the Emirates. But given how slender that is, and the fact that Arsenal have got that away goal, you still think that Arsenal will have enough back at the Emirates to turn this tie around and make it through to the final. But we've seen both sides of Arsenal this season, the good and the bad. Mostly bad, given how far down they are in the Premier League, and the fact that they're not going to make it into Europe through that method, so they have to win this competition to get themselves back into the Champions League, which is where they have belonged for so many years until 2016, where it was like their first season for many where they haven't made the Champions League. So winning the Europa League for good Gunners and Mikel Arteta would be a real happy end to what has been a very difficult season for them. at a point whereby Mikel Arteta was always on the verge of getting the sack, but he somehow has managed to turn it around, and this could be the route to get themselves back where they belong in the Champions League pretty much through the back door, but they've still got work to do in that second leg. And but given how the tie went for them, they were very poor in that first leg in Spain. They'll take a 2-1 deficit back to the Emirates, and just get the feeling they'll be very confident of turning this tie around, like I said. So that's it for my reaction for all of the semi-final ties that take place. Still, there's one tie that looks like it's all over, whilst the other three look evenly matched. Still could be some comebacks in the second leg, but some teams have taken a big step towards reaching the final, and this week we will find out who's in the showpieces for both European competitions, which I'm going to preview later on this week, the semi-final second legs of both competitions, and we'll find out which teams will be taking that last step towards European glory this season. So hope you enjoy watching this video. As always, hope you enjoy watching my content of what I have to say about the stories that are happening in football, particularly in Europe. I have said in previous videos that I'll talk about like the title races that are developing across the big European leagues, such as Liga and La Liga in particular, where there's like a few teams who are still going for the title. So I'll have some time to maybe do a bit of that as well. So but thanks for watching this video as always. Thanks for watching and subscribing to my YouTube channel, and hope you all have a good rest of the day as always. So I look forward to seeing you back on here very soon. I'm out of here.